Now, you don't have to be a huge Marvel fan to know that the Avengers sequel was filmed in different parts of Korea from March 30th to April 9th. Now, traffic was restricted in different parts of Seoul at some points for over 11 hours. It was the first time a Hollywood blockbuster was filmed in this country, and many were expecting the shoot to bring about economic benefits to Korea. Now, some economists have even calculated those economic benefits to be roughly $23 million, as the film will introduce Seoul to people all around the world and thus attract more tourists. But how feasible is this calculation, and was it really worth all the inconveniences? Well, let's bring in Dr. Byoung-joo, the head of KL&P Consulting, and our regular commentator for some discussion. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Kim.
Good afternoon.
So first of all, about the filming of the Avengers 2 in this city and the debate between costs and benefits, how has it been unfolding so far?
Quite heatedly, I have to say. The discussion still continues as the filming still continues. Altogether about, 16 days, I suppose, and we still have a few more days to go. And advocates, you mentioned $23 million US dollars, but the advocates, their estimates all really vary, somewhere between the 120 to somewhere 400 billion won here. So very much a wide range of estimation in terms of economic benefits. According to the Association of Promotion of Korean Movie Industry here, they're saying it will result in extra production altogether for the economy of 25 billion won, plus other additional value added, added value created about 10 billion won, together with 300 people newly employed, including about 120 of Korea's movie professionals being employed. And they're saying we can expect 620,000 new tourists as a result of this movie. Quite an ambitious figure, I suppose.
Right.
And they will spend about 87 billion extra won here in Korea. So that's a huge benefit. But what about the cost side? Well, there are a lot of different words. Cost-wise, first of all, there will be government support for the movie makers because according to Korean law, they can they can reimburse about 30% of what they spend here in Korea, as long as this company is, as long as this enterprise itself is 80% or more foreign invested here. Of course, they set up a separate special purpose company for this project, filming the scenes here in Korea, so that qualifies. And then if filming lasts over 10 days, they can get 30% cash reimbursement. So there goes that cost going into it. But however, of course, the ordinary citizens here in Korea, in Seoul, they're complaining big time because we have Mapo Bridge and Cheongdam Bridge and then Gangnam Avenue all blocked off for several days for filming. They're saying, why aren't you calculating the cost of inconvenience for the citizens here? And I don't think we have estimate for that one here.
Right.
And Seoul mayor, for instance, was it like March 25th? He had to hold a press conference kind of defending the city's decision to support this movie because the criticism against the inconveniences were rising so much.
But views were in fact like divided half and half. There were those Koreans who were excited to see this being filmed here, and of course those who actually think this will bring in benefits for the Korea's image as well.
That's true.
Now, going beyond movies, recently with the Sochi Winter Olympics, we saw it being hosted as the most expensive Winter Games or games in total.
Right.
And that concerns us because we have the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics coming up.
Right.
And we are expecting this to bring in enormous benefits for Korea.
Right, indeed. This is another issue of whether we have a right benefit calculation here. Let's bring up the chart here. Okay, right here, table. And this is according to the Hyundai Research Institute back in July 2011. And total cost or total benefits you see is 64 trillion won here. How did it come about? 21 trillion coming from direct benefits of direct investment, related spending, and indirect benefits, 43 trillion won coming in the form of tourism effect as well as national image enhancement. Okay, so that sounds pretty good when we consider about 9 trillion won investment that goes into Pyeongchang Olympic. But this is another point that we are continuing to talk about, whether we have a right way of calculating benefit versus costs.
Right. The National Assembly's Budget Office, however, is not quite as optimistic about it.
Right. As opposed to that 65 trillion won, benefits that will be, produced as a result of 9 trillion won investment. Let's bring up another table here. This is the argument from the National Assembly Budget Office. They're saying, well, about 9 trillion will go in altogether for Pyeongchang Olympic Games, but altogether at the end, all the way to the right-hand side, you see that 4 trillion won to be wasted, according to the National Assembly Budget Office. They have all these intricate details through which they calculate this, but it's a big headache. And of course, the Incheon Asian Games coming up, there also National Assembly is talking about 1 trillion won being wasted as a result of that. And at the bottom, as you see, F1 Grand Prix car racing, which was taking place in Yeongnam area for the last 3 years, which we don't have this year, resulting in that kind of waste as well. So National Assembly is quite critical about what we are having here.
Now, in deciding whether to host these international events in Korea in the future, how can we better deal with the gulf between the optimists and the pessimists?
Experts are saying when they produce this kind of economic benefits projection, they say they're only using this simple calculation of how much is going in and that much will be coming out as an output. And they say that's overly simplified way of calculating benefits here. They say we really need to look into so-called opportunity cost. That money and investment, if it can be used elsewhere, how much benefits it could be created. That needs to be compared to the expected benefits, and then that calculation should come in balance. In Korea, actually, we do have such benefit cost analysis that's required, but the results of that kind of benefit cost analysis is not publicized. They say that needs to be publicized rather than this straightforward what goes in, what comes out as a benefit calculation. So I think that's one way of dealing with this dispute in the future better. Publicize the result of actual official benefit cost analysis and share it with the public. That will be the argument.
Right, and as Korea becomes a more global city, global country, and Seoul becoming a more global city, we will be hosting more of these international events for sure. And these kinds of ways to mediate the differences is pretty necessary for the future as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Kim Byoung-joo, thank you so much for today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.